inside this box, you get a little mini Crown Royal bag looking thing like this, along with a mouthpiece cap. Pretty superior cap you got here. And you also get a ligature. Okay, so as you can see, I already have my mouthpiece saver on here because I cheated and I already played it. You got this ligature. It looks like kind of a fancier old ligature that used to come with Dukoffs back in the day. And in all honesty, I don't like this ligature at all. Alright, so let's take a closer look at this mouthpiece and let's go over some specs. As you can see, it's got a pretty aggressive baffle. You can tell by the way this inside triangle here is, I call this a primary triangle. You can see how it steps into the secondary facing right here. If you look closely at this thing, there doesn't appear to be a forehead at all. It has this rounded window. I like to call that a chin area. I try to stick to using face analogies because when I get around to translating this into other languages, it just translates a lot easier. So as you can see, that kind of wedgy thing right there, that's very similar to my Dukoff M8. And you can see on the inside how it has that little wedgy thing that's right there. Okay, so if I show you it from this angle, you can see that inner window, that inner chin area right down here, you can see how that gets thick. That's thicker than on a lot of mouthpieces. I found that this is a very nice trait to have on bright mouthpieces. And my Dukoff is also like that. If we look on the inside of this chin area, you can see how thick that gets. I did notice that this is a fantastically well-made product, but there do seem to be some small little defects. If I look on this side, you can see how there's this line that's just right here. That's different from this side. Also, this left rail seems to be a tiny bit thicker than the right side. I don't know if that's showing up well on this camera or not, but also there's like a little, just something right here. I don't know what this little dark spot is right here, but all of these mouthpieces are hand finished. So if they play test them all, which they do, and they hand finish them, maybe they dial them in to make sure that they're all more consistent with the way they're supposed to be. So I'm not very concerned with that. Also, if I show you this mouthpiece from this angle, there's like a little ding or something right here. I mean, I'm not super concerned with that, but at $400, you know, I would expect something like that to not be there. Let's take a look at it from this angle here. Now, I went on the website to try to find out what size chamber this is. To my naked eye, it looks like a small chamber because I don't see where that opens up at all from the bore, but don't quote me on that. This is a relatively heavy mouthpiece. All right, let me show you this just with the light. I found that mouthpieces that are baffled like this generally play smaller than what the number designation says, and this one is no exception. So, all right, let's get to it. different reed. All right, I gotta work a bit at it, but I really need to dial in the right reeds for this mouthpiece. I like playing my too soft reed for it because it's real easy. You get that kind of like easy to play, easy to cut through kind of sound, but I'm gonna play on this thing for a little while longer. Also, I can't stand this ligature, but at least you got one for free. So I will get back to you. Now let's compare that to the Van Dorn V16 T6 gold-plated mouthpiece. I'm going to use my Silverstein ligature because I hate this thing. All right. Altissimo is all coming in very low pitch. I was all set to be finished reviewing this mouthpiece, but I decided to switch things up a bit because I did not like the way this ligature made this mouthpiece play. And I decided to try this on my Van Dorn, which is my main mouthpiece. And you know what? It makes it play weird. I don't like this ligature. And even my Silverstein ligature, that is phenomenal on my Van Dorn, it doesn't work that well on this mouthpiece. The ligature that does actually work really well is the Van Dorn ligature, the one that came with my Van Dorn Metal V16. So I'm going to use that same reed that I used on the Van Dorn right now, and you guys can get an idea for what this sounds like. Best case scenario, I use my two thin reeds with it because for 2.5 octaves, it's really easy to play. It's pretty much all that they say it is, except for Altissimo. For me, trying to play Altissimo with this mouthpiece, I'm having to push it so hard because of this freak baffle that's in it. That's the good part. The bad part is, as far as it being an edgy, powerful mouthpiece, it doesn't come close to my Van Dorn Jumbo Java. The Jumbo Java has a lot of core, it has a lot of bottom to it. This one is kind of like, I get this kind of flash in the pan thing, which also helps to reinforce this theory that I've been coming up with modern, very expensive, high-end mouthpiece makers, is that these mouthpieces aren't really made for professionals like myself. They're really made for amateurs that think they need a really expensive mouthpiece in order to get whatever it is they're trying to get out of it. And it's because these mouthpieces wind up doing so much for you that you don't have time to really develop it yourself. I don't want all of that given to me from the manufacturer. That's why my favorite Theowane mouthpiece is actually the Data, the metal Data. I'm trying to find one on the internet, see if I can get one. I just sent them an email to see if they can still just kind of make one, and then they recommended the Shiva 2 for some reason, which sounds nothing like it. A lot of guys, they started out playing links, and for the most part, all those links were the same. Yeah, you had your vintage links and all that, but when you went out to go buy a new link, everybody was playing on links. So if you wanted to sound like somebody, you had to transcribe the solos, you had to put that time in, you had to work your long tones and fine tune all of that. When now the manufacturing has gotten so good, they can just kind of detail all these things in, so people wind up not putting in the work. So this mouthpiece ultimately is just doing way too much for me. So it might work out well for you if this is the kind of thing that you're looking for, but my advice to you is if you get this mouthpiece, get yourself a different ligature. All right, so that's what I got for you.